Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Kings of the North. We are hopping into our final online series that's going to be played. It's going to be PiLiPiLi versus JimRising. It's going to be a fascinating one for many, many reasons. But Cybergrub, how are you feeling coming into this?
It's a very complicated question, Fair Dragon. There's a lot of things happening in this series that make me wonder who could actually win. Both players showed up after all, and that just means both players could win.
Yeah. And I mean, Abyssal Reef, a fascinating map. Clearly the most interesting thing about how this series is going to go. As oh yeah, we're gonna hop into the game and introduce the players, I think, in a second. We're just waiting for Pili to load on his wood PC that has maybe been playing a little bit too much Dota lately. Maybe he actually probably has Dota in the background. That's why he took so long to load. But here we go. We're going to be spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, on top of where everything is absolutely, totally normal. The orange Zerg player, give it up. Root Gaming, or not Root Gaming. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. That's an old throwback. We have JimRising, our Mexican Zerg player, representing casters everywhere.
In the bottom right, everything as normal. It is the red Zerg, Psystorm's PiLiPiLi.
Who's a Protoss main, but you know.
Yeah, just in case people weren't clear. The reason we were acting so weird is that we were trying to keep it a secret until we actually got in, but there is something very interesting happening. PiLiPiLi is playing an off race. It's kind of funny. Whenever I think of people who, what their second race is, right?
Mm-hmm.
What their off race is. I always think Zerg off race is Protoss. That just seems to be the way things go. And Protoss, off race is Zerg. What's with the Terran hate? What's up with that, man? Like, why no Terran?
Nobody wants to play Terran.
It's because it's the hardest race. I mean, I'm just saying. There's been two things to prove this today.
You should talk to Pig about that. He actually has a very, very interesting bit to say on that.
Man, I smashed Pig's TVT. I'm still pretty proud of that.
Yeah. But here's the full story on everything I know about Pili's situation with Zerg. The funny thing is he has actually been saying he wants to switch to Zerg for 2018 for a while now. And the funny thing is he's also been playing a lot of Zerg in the past like few months. So this isn't as odd as you might think it is. Like, this isn't just Pili kind of memeing right now. He actually has a pretty damn good Zerg. He has been beating a lot of top NA players and even some EU players or KR players with his Zerg. But the one catch here is that I don't know if he's been playing a lot of Zerg in the past, like, 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks. Basically, ever since Montreal, I think that Pili has not been playing as much StarCraft. I know that I've mentioned this before and some of the other things. Besides Kings of the North, I think he's just basically been playing a lot of Dota and sort of relaxing, dealing with school, and taking a bit of the off-season for WCS in stride and trying to relax a little bit. But I am really curious. I haven't actually seen much of Pili's ZVZ. I've only heard a lot of his Zerg, just in general. So we'll see how things go.
And I feel like no one really wants to talk about, including the players themselves, the mirror matchup of their off race. Everyone's like, well, obviously they're going to be good against their main race because they understand it more. Like Scarlet's PBZ would make a lot of sense. And then generally the third option, I guess, is versus Terran, which everyone just wants to be like, that was really hard and it's dropped me everywhere type thing. But like, I feel like no one ever wants to talk about their mirror matchup when they play an off race. Like, it's probably something they don't like, and it's just probably something that they I don't know, focus least on. But I have no idea. I'm with you. PiLiPiLi could be great at ZVZ and find it the most enjoyable matchup he's ever done. That's why he wants to swap the ZVZ, or more likely, he doesn't get to play against this caliber of ZVZ that is JimRising.
Zombie Grub, find me a player that says that about ZVZ, that this is the most enjoyable matchup that they've ever played. Okay. And you know what? We'll talk about that.
Here's the caveat. Whenever someone has a stupidly high win rate in a matchup, that's their favorite matchup. And sometimes it happens to be a mirror matchup, man. So they're like, yeah, I like it. I win a lot.
Okay, you know what? That's actually fair. And PiLiPiLi does actually have some pretty damn good micros. So we'll see what he can make happen over here. He is trying to get a bit aggressive. Ooh, snipes off a creep tumor on his way out. He is down in army supply, but he's playing a bit of catch up in workers and has gotten a much, much faster third base. That is the #1 thing I think Pili has going for him, alongside these faster roaches.
Yeah. So we're assuming, or we now know, thanks to Fear Dragon's knowledge, that PiLiPiLi just isn't like some scrub to Zerg. He obviously is going to know all the ways not to die to early attacks. That you die in silly ways because you just don't really understand the race yet. Zerg is especially difficult, I think, because it's a lot about feelings and specifically ZVZ. Like ZVZ is so much more about, do I fit in 2 drones now or 2 drones later, than it is like, well, I'll just macro and hit this one timing. That Protoss sometimes can be an easier race to off race with, because as long as you hit your timings and don't get attacked, it's fine. I feel like ZVZ is going to be the hardest matchup to do, but PiLiPiLi seems to be just preparing for an all-in, which is kind of about hitting your timings.
Yeah, and I mean, getting out so many of these roaches nice and early at the exact right time is being incredibly helpful. And ooh, nice little wall up over there prevents the banelings from making it up to the top. The roaches over by the third help defend it, and he doesn't even have that much of a saturation at that third. In fact, it seems like right now all he's doing is using it for larva. Is he just going to be going for a big attack? He doesn't have any upgrades coming out, so I wonder what the big trigger will be.
Yeah, no evolution chamber, no lair, no additional drones. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't attack a little bit sooner, but he is actually going to go ahead and attack with the Flood of Lings, because I think typically what we see is like the Roach-Ling combination and then the huge Flood of Lings supports. As such, I do believe PiLiPiLi is delaying it a little bit. Now he's moving out, and actually Lings first, Roaches stay behind to defend.
Interesting. I guess maybe these Lings are just going to go for counterattacks. Maybe this isn't a big commit. Well,
it has to be.
Yeah, he's still making units. Now he's down 9 to 10 workers at this point.
I really am concerned that he's maybe wasted too much time. I mean, JimRising's constantly been checking with these attacks. He's probably not been looking for ways to kill PiLiPiLi for the last minute. He's been like, okay, when are you going to attack? How much time do I have?
Well, here we go. The economy's been better for JimRising for a while now, but has it actually paid off just yet? The corrosive biles could be huge, but no, actually not really landing the big hits over there. And that was a lot of the firepower that PiLiPiLi has.
It did almost open up the roaches to be surrounded by the Lings, which take up the shots of the roaches, which don't attack that fast. But they were busy killing the third base. So while JimRising, I want to say, had a lot of knowledge this is on the way, he still wasn't able to get as much. PiLiPiLi has been building this army for a minute and a half, really, before he even attacked with it, where JimRising still had to wait on his Roach Warren. Now defensive advantage kicks in and high ground, and he's fine, but he lost the third.
The weird thing is that JimRising wasn't oversaturated with. He had a worker advantage, but he wasn't oversaturated. And even after losing the third, he still has some extra little mineral patches to spare in terms of mining. He can retake that third. PiLiPiLi has only just recently caught up on the drone count, and even now he's not making any more drones. So would you actually consider JimRising to be really that far behind?
No, not that far behind, which is why he's held on 2 bases. He just lost the third base, which, I mean, maybe if he was in a different position instead of on the low ground like that, it would have been a lot easier to hold, and then he would have been in a clearly dominant position. As it is, he fit in that lair, so instead of going for roaches and roach speed, he actually goes for a Spire, which PiLiPiLi should have a lot of trouble dealing with.
Yeah, he's going to be leading up in army supply for a bit, but it is, like you said, about that Spire and the fact that JimRising has roughly 900 gas bank, that he's going to be able to pop out 9 mutas immediately, as we should see those in the production tab soon. And there they are.
Yeah, 9 mutas. That's going to be very difficult. PiLiPiLi, I mean, he's going to have all the right defenses as soon as he sees it, once his Overlord gets sight of it, which... Actually, this is one of his only Overlords on this side of the map, which seems like a good thing. Hey, he won't lose 2 or 3 Overlords, but on the other hand, he won't see the mutas before they're right in his base, so he can't build Spore Crawlers, he can't get extra Queens, and this is actually a huge deal. Usually these reveal themselves in another way. Yeah,
exactly what you were saying. Like, if the mutas were just now finding Overlords and killing them off, PiLiPiLi would actually have just enough time to get up those Spore Crawlers. But now this actually could be nearly game ending. Spore Crawler is going down, so it seems like he has some sort of game sense that the mutas are coming, and here they show up, but Spore Crawler only going up inside the third base, nothing inside the natural where the mutas are hitting.
Yeah, this is a lot of damage done, and you can really start snowballing too if you can continually kill the Spore Crawlers and deny the Queen production, which PiLiPiLi can't even produce. He put so much money into building a Roach attack to go for +1 Roach speed timing, but he doesn't have minerals to make more Queens. He barely has them to make all those Spore Crawlers. But JimRising, realizing where that was really hard to say, realizing where the army is, pulls back his mutas to add that damage.
All right, and now all JimRising has to do is defend the top of this ramp. The Muta's there to consistently do damage and target fire down the Ravagers, the one kind of advantage that PiLiPiLi does have, besides a very small Roach lead. Well, actually a pretty decent-sized Roach lead now, but can he actually get enough damage done in time before the Roaches die? That is what I think we're skeptical of.
Yeah, I want to say no. A lot of the Roaches went to the natural base, very easy to clean up. They're very, very low, and only a handful got to the third. He probably should have pulled his drones a little bit sooner than that. Even still, to really, yeah, actually, PiLiPiLi knows it too. GG.
Well, that was certainly fascinating. That was an experience, and JimRising goes up 1-0. Now 1 game away from qualifying for the Kings of the North offline finals. I think he's locked in as Zerg now. I think we need to check with an admin if you're even allowed to race switch at this point.
So JimRising made it clear.
Mm-hmm.
PiLiPiLi said he was going to pick Zerg the rest of the series.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I see what you're saying now. Yeah. Well, PiLiPiLi's got to find some answers to, I guess, the late game stage of ZVZ. But the funny thing is, I think he actually got into a pretty decent spot, different points in the time of the ZVZ. It was just about, I guess, how the transition ended up happening. The Spire really caught him off guard. If he had had a better defense with the Spire, like that game doesn't necessarily end quite so suddenly and one-sidedly. Like that actually was maybe one small change away from being a much later game stage.
Yeah, you're absolutely right to say that it would have gone on for a lot longer, but there's 2 scenarios. You saw one play out where the Roaches were going for an all-in anyways, and they tried their best and it failed. The other universe is that he does get the Spore Crawlers up. He keeps his Roaches at home. He decides not to go for the all-in and just rebuilds Queens and Spore Crawlers. He's still pushed off a 4th base for a very long time. That's something the Mutas would easily deny. He's going to lose more drones because the Spore Crawlers would be kind of snowballed against and really hard to actually get up and running. And JimRising would have just outproduced him back into Roaches most likely. So I think no matter what, those Mutas were a bit of a trump card. Unless they were scouted immediately, then maybe that's when it's different, because he can really change his game plan from there. Like, I mean, the Spire was scouted, not just the Mutas. The Spire was literally scouted when it was put down. Then maybe that was different.
Yeah, it's a little funny, too, because JimRising did end up playing versus Jon Snow in the winner's bracket as well. And we saw that he really likes going for the kind of, I wouldn't even want to call it like Hail Mary mutas, because Hail Mary, for those who don't know, like American football, Hail Mary is like a play where basically you just kind of toss the football as far as humanly possible. Someone catches it and just tries to go for a touchdown or some incredible amount of like gain in terms of like how far you make it down the field. And it's like a very much a cross your fingers and play kind of thing. But in this situation, I don't really feel like it's a total Hail Mary play, but JimRising really just likes to seem to go for the, all right, let's go for mutas and kind of hope I don't die in the process.
He was more, it's more like monologuing, to be honest. So I feel like waiting for mutas like that, because you're waiting for 900 minerals, 900 gas. You're really taking a shot there. It's monologuing. The villain, it literally has you in a chokehold up against the acid on the floor, and you just start talking about his family while you wait for the bomb behind you, I don't know, or whatever. And then when it's done, you reveal it, and it's like, oh no, I was caught monologuing. So if I prefer that analogy, I suppose, because you're right, it's not really a Hail Mary, but I just love that you had to explain Hail Mary when I've always considered the Hail Mary term itself to be so obvious.
But it's only in American football.
No, because it's literally called a Hail Mary. Like you start praying when you need a miracle. So you Hail Mary full of grace.
It just didn't occur to me that maybe Hail Mary was a phrase outside of American football.
Well, it's certainly a phrase, religiously. Yeah. So I've never thought it was that weird.
Yeah. Well, either way, I want to be considerate to all the Canadians in the audience, since this is a Canadian-driven event.
They have a Canadian football league. I just want to make just clear in that. And it sucks.
Is it soccer?
No, remember we watched some of it when we were in that bar in Canada.
Oh my god, I do remember this. I was so surprised by that. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the Canadians had to admit that it's just like washed up American football players that go to the Canadian leagues. Harsh.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're trust me, we're not delaying the game. I think that the players are just trying to figure out what maps were actually left and what map number 2 was supposed to be. as they try and figure that stuff out. JimRising, I think, just has this habit. Like, I feel like JimRising, I love the guy to death, but sometimes like you'll be talking with him and he'll just like if it's like he just falls asleep or something in the middle of the conversation and he just stops responding randomly. Like I just feel like that happens a lot with him. So we're all waiting here like, Jim, what was the second map? Jim, do you know what the second map is? And he just stops responding. We're like, Jim. And he was like, yo, what's up? Or somebody need me? Just was something happening? I was like, yeah, we're waiting for you to pick that map. He's like, oh yeah, it's been Mech Depot. Why didn't you say something? Like, okay.
I guess that's the same thing that's happening now. They finally chose a map.
Yeah. It is gonna be Mech Depot, by the way. I feel as though when you're talking about matchups and stuff, maps can play an impact, especially in ZVZ, because the way that you scout with your overlords, the kinds of things that are a little bit more common, the way you send your lings across around the map if there's an early pool, or if you're scouting for an early pool, all that stuff really does matter a lot, especially in a matchup like ZVZ. But I trust absolutely none of it to be traditional or standard with PiLiPiLi, because as much as he has been playing ZVZ, I don't really trust him to play like a normal Zerg player.
I wouldn't be surprised if he tries another all-in. I mean, there are so many timings to hit in ZVZ. They're a little less obvious, I feel, because it is like, oh, he stopped droning. Like, oh, wait a second. But they definitely exist, and I'm sure JimRising after that last game will be a little extra on guard against the certain ones. Like, I'm pretty sure that last attack actually can hit even at 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Or anything. I'm not a ZVZ player, but it like PiLiPiLi kept on like waiting and waiting and waiting. It was kind of weird.
You know, it's really funny too, because you're talking about how he could probably have hit earlier, and I almost wonder, like, he didn't even need to defend his third really against the lings that were trying to do that counterattacking. He wasn't droning from it at all. But should be pretty interesting, as Mech Depot definitely going to be a pretty fun map. Normally, you end up seeing pretty quick thirds, I think, on this map a lot of the time, but we will see. PiLiPiLi definitely is a player that I feel like just going for 13-12 or something would even be really effective, or just like some kind of speedling all in, just take advantage of like the early game aggression and micro, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. He didn't really get to test the speed lane micro that much, so that might be something to test. And well, JimRising, I feel there's a little bit of pride when you're going against someone who's off racing or a random player. We are like, well, I'm obviously the better race because I played this race more than you do, so I should win. And you even a temptation to kind of show them what's up.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what PiLiPiLi is going to decide. Remember that this is a qualifying match. JimRising is currently sitting 1-0 in this best of 3, and if he wins one more game, he's going to be going to that offline finals. You can find out more information about that offline finals by typing !finals in the chat. But here we go. We're hopping into it. Game number 2. So we're going to be starting up here in the top right-hand corner of the map. Top of the red Zerg player. Once again, normally a Protoss player, it is Systorm Gaming's PiLiPiLi.
And in the bottom left, as the blue Zerg, his main race, it is JimRising. Well, I was a bit surprised PiLiPiLi went for the double gas extractor trick. And you guys didn't get to see it, but that's what he did. The single gas extractor trick has already been proven, I believe, in StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void, very specifically to be not beneficial. It even loses out on minerals by a very small amount. If you're wrong, it's really not that important. But the double one, I haven't seen that in a long time.
You know what? I'm gonna call him out on this, and I could be wrong on this, and PiLi could give me shit for this later. But I'm gonna say that he probably maybe made a mistake. And he was
Actually,
like, oh, shoot, my overlord's late.
That is totally legit. That is the only reason I've ever extractor tricked in my life. But there's, I can't believe he would make 2 mistakes, basically, where, you caused the second one to happen, too. That's really out of practice.
Oh, man. Well, this spine crawler is insanely early from JimRising. I wonder what actually prompted this. Like, I believe that... Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that I also saw that JimRising went for a pool before hatchery in this game.
He might have. I'm actually more... I don't even remember. I was paying attention to the double extractor trick, but he has not rallied his drones correctly. JimRising at his natural... Man, that was like 30 seconds or 2 drones weren't doing anything.
That is actually really, really frustrating. And you can actually see that if Since we're on the WCS overlay, if you hit escape, Joe, you can show, and I think if you hit E and escape, just make sure that you're like on everyone vision, you can see the idle time for drones. Isn't that so cool? That's like one of the most underappreciated things on the WCS overlay. 49 seconds
Oh.
lost of mining.
I was like, are you trying to get them to show the income graph? Because like, what the hell are you doing?
No, I'm trying to get him just in the bottom right. There's an idle time.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't
Oh
use
shoot,
that
actually
really.
we have our logos over that. Never mind.
Well, okay, I think the income graph also would have shown the big spike that
That's
happened.
true. That probably would have
So,
shown it better.
first, if someone does a hatchery first, because with pool first, there's a tiny bit of a spike, and then additionally, they don't have the drones. It's obviously a big deal. And he was putting that spine crawler, which is kind of like what pointed me to the direction of seeing the mineral line that you were talking about. How JimRising is just very defensive. He got all in last game twice, really, and obviously thought that the next game could very, very highly possibility of being an early pool. Rotterdam actually pointed this out to me though before I even noticed, but Mech Depot is a shockingly long map because it looks like it's so small, but you have to go around the rocks. I would say that it takes one of the longer amount of time to get from base to base, especially if you don't have speed, and PiLiPiLi just forever getting over here.
Man, I really like this from JimRising though. He played ultra safe, but after realizing, yeah, actually I'm okay, and I've already taken the defensive precautions earlier on, he cancels speed. He gets up the roaches incredibly quickly, and like you were saying, he gets up this +1 missile attack. PiLiPiLi not going to be able to do anything with these early lings. Sure, he has a third right now, but it is going to be about that big roach attack that JimRising is gearing up for.
I mean, JimRising, what he's doing, it can definitely gear up for a great attack, which seems to be the case, but it's also just one of the safest ways you can play the game. You know, if you actually wall completely or natural, don't try and go for any sort of reasonable third. It can be, again, the safest way you can play. So might also be considering that, but he's making a lot of roaches. So I'm still thinking he's going to try and do something with his attack. PiLiPiLi just not getting a roach run at all and could just simply die to this.
PiLiPiLi pulled all of his lings into his main base and then made like 6 or 10 banelings or 7 banelings. And then I guess he now is bringing them over to his third and leaving a few in his main base. I guess he's maybe preparing for like ling run-bys or something, but he should know what's going on, right? He's seen the double evolution chipper wall off. He's seen the roach warren. It usually leads into one thing, even if he's not normally a Zerg main.
Well, yeah, you see, it is like this many roaches that I think puts me off guard, and maybe PiLiPiLi off, like should put him off guard anyways. Which is like, if they get 10 to 15, you're like, okay, that's enough to make sure I don't like, surround with lings. I don't like run by him as he takes a very safe third base. So that's understandable. But if it's anything more, you're like, oh, are you trying to hit me with +1 in roach speed? Like, what's going on? So I'm surprised that PiLiPiLi wasn't more scared, but it seems to have been the right call, at least for now. He still doesn't have a roach run on the way. I think he might just die to pure roaches. But JimRising did make more drones, and he did get a third base, so it wasn't the timing we were expecting.
I actually wonder if PiLiPiLi is going to try and play this very roundabout style that I think we've seen a lot from True in some of the WCS events. It's actually a style that is oddly effective. You look at it, and it's just heavily based around these massive numbers of lings, getting up the mutas and the Spire, which we're going to be seeing the Spire going down now. And we've seen True actually taking out players like a Laser, taking out players like a Snoot, and many other really, really strong Zerg players from Europe with this.
So I'm really a big fan of ling usage in any matchup, especially when it makes it, you can make it work in a ZVZ, which I find incredibly difficult to do. I just think that the way that he's played it out hasn't actually worked, but I might take that back. JimRising only has half of his roaches over here, and they get partially surrounded with the 1-1. That was not at all what JimRising was supposed to do, but there's the rest of them. And this is where PiLiPiLi just looks like he made a grave mistake. Like, he just didn't actually do the damage needed to continue doing 1-1 ling.
Okay, well, the banelings have to get some pretty amazing connections on these roaches, and well, I mean, not getting the worst connections, but is it really going to be the game-changing connections? It doesn't look like it. Most of the lings have already died, and JimRising, who's sitting up 1 and 0, is now sitting up 100 almost supply up.
Yeah, this is going to be game. They said 1-1 is just so difficult to use. You really got to start, I don't know, trading a little bit better earlier, and GG. No Spire to be seen in this game. Well, not finished anyways. And that's it.
JimRising is going to be our last player to make it to the offline finals for Kings of the North number 4. Very excited to have him there, as I believe he may even be the first Mexican player that's going to be participating in Kings of the North for the offline finals. So
Cool.
that should be very exciting as well. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in for today's broadcast. And again, congratulations goes to not only, of course, JimRising, but also Semper, who managed to advance on over Puck 2-0. And we'll also be seeing Jon Snow facing off versus Neeb at that offline finals event, and Scarlet facing off versus Masa in the offline finals event for the winners bracket. So lots of great matches. Type in !finals if you want more information on those grand finals that are going to be happening October 14th and 15th. You'll be able to see me, Zombie Grub, No Regret, Tempo, Steadfast, all kinds of awesome people. The full talent lineup, I think, is over on www.eschamp.com/KOTN. Yeah, I almost said twitch.tv/eschamp. That would actually just be where you'd find us right now.
Good catch.
Yeah. But of course, a big thank you to also all of our wonderful sponsors that make Kings of the North possible. Please be sure to give them some love, guys, as this is going to be our last online broadcast until the big offline finals. First of all, we have the wonderful, the illustrious Chairs for Gaming. If you guys want to check them out, use the promo code ESChamp. You guys can get a fantastic DX racer that I use and sit in pretty much most of my life, because I am a nerd that sits on my computer for most of my life. Of course, Asus ROG, our second sponsor, that provides a lot of the hardware that makes Kings of the North possible, including laptops, PC components, etc. If you guys want to run StarCraft incredibly smoothly, go check out Asus ROG. And of course, Matcherino. If you guys want to contribute to the prize pool directly, you want to grow Kings of the North, that is one of the best ways that you can do it. Contribute to that Matcherino page, check out the rewards, and also use the promo code KOTN4 to add $1 to the prize pool without even having to add any money of your own if you're a poor college student or something along those lines. But with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in. Zombie Grub, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you guys at the offline finals event on October 14th and 15th. Take care, guys. Be sure to follow the channel.
Bye-bye.